All right, guys, it's time for some Stacking Pennies Tricky Triangle Edition. Joined by an old friend, one of my good buddies, Brandon McReynolds, spotter for Ross Chastain, joins me in studio. Ryan Flores is on his way back from Pocono, the big winner, but there's a ton to break down. Let's get right into it. This is Stacking Pennies.
Stacking them deep, selling them cheap.
It tastes like gasoline, rubber, and victory.
We're just out here stacking pennies. Hey guys, welcome in. Quarter of the Joy here, alongside not the usual co-host, Ryan Flores, who won, by the way, yesterday. Shout out to him. He's on his way back from Jersey. We miss him being in the studio. Talk about that day, but he did, before we get into it, did say this. He said that was the easiest day he's ever had. Come in, put 4 tires on it, make sure they're tight, watch him gas the car up, and then go get your prize in victory lane. So congrats to Ryan Blaney, Ryan Flores, and that entire 12 team. But today, in studio, I welcome one of my best friends who we grew up racing with each other, grew up as Rugrats together, but now he has found himself as not only the spotter for Ross Chastain, he heads up a marketing company in Clear 28, and just an overall good dude. And he's Larry Max McNugget. Brandon McReynolds joins us right here in Nonsense Crush. Welcome to the show.
Appreciate you having me. I was pleasantly surprised when you asked me to come on the show. So I hate Flores can't be here and be able to boast about the victory up in Pocono, but we'll see how we do. So thanks for having me on. It was bumped into you outside the racetrack in Pocono.
That Pocono Organics
It's
restaurant
awesome.
is very good.
So I don't know if you saw him, but Steve Phelps was in there.
Yeah.
And we were catching up.
Casual Friday. He was in sweatshirt, jeans, looked like just some guy buying some herbs in the inside.
Still looked better than I ever looked, that's for sure. So no, it was good to see Steve. The guy's incredible, but I was glad I got to bump into you and Kelly and spend a little bit of time catching up, and that's where you asked me to come on the show.
Well, I knew this. I knew that you are, when it comes to bullshit, there ain't a whole lot of people better. So I figured you'd be able to full in, better keep Ryan Flores' seat warm. Brandon Brown's joining us right here in studio. So as I said, you're spotting for Ross Chastain, but your life goals wasn't to become a spotter necessarily.
Right.
So you and I were relatively the same age, grew up racing go-karts and bandoleros and Pro Challenge, Allison Legacies, and late models. Several run-ins with each other, one of which happened at Concord. You wrecked me on a restart. Dad was spotting.
Allegedly.
Yeah,
allegedly.
We both crashed into the wall. We both ended up nose-to-nose in the fence of turn 1. And I looked at you through the windshield. We were probably 15 or 16.
We hit pretty hard, too.
Yeah, we hit a ton.
Yeah.
And I just look at you, and you just, like, the life falls out of you. And nonetheless, our original plan before the race was you were going to come over and spend the night. We were going to have a day at the pool or whatever.
Yep.
And you still thought that was a good plan to have after you wrecked me.
I already had my bag packed, so I didn't know what to do. I panicked.
You literally just stood at the back of the hauler while we're loading our crash up.
Yeah.
Like, all right, man. What?
I'll never forget. It was the worst. That was one of the bigger mistakes I've made in my life. And I get back over here to the shop, and your dad and little Jimmy and your whole team that had worked really hard, which basically your whole team was you.
Yeah.
And some of your dad's buddies and stuff like that, and some of the guys that worked here in the seat shop. But I'll never forget just getting my tail chewed out the whole entire time, trying to help you guys unload that late model. It was on casters. And your dad, I got to see him a little while ago, and he's still, I think, blown away that I even asked to still come over. But I think that was a good way to break the ice and just to get beyond it. But I'm still living that mistake, obviously, up until about 20 minutes ago when I saw him. So it's good.
I don't think you're ever going to live that one down, actually.
Yeah.
But so after that, we're talking about not to get too far in the weeds with it, because I wanted to ask you to come be like an analyst of the show, co-host. Sure. Break down the weekend. It's certainly a lot to talk about this weekend on the racetrack, but I wanted to give the fans some context about how long we've known each other and what you've done and how hard you've worked to get to where you are, even though it's not necessarily where you wanted to go.
Right.
And before we started the show, we were talking about how just the timing and the breaks happened to where it wouldn't be a big difference, one or two things happening, bouncing your way versus bouncing mine, where our roles could be completely different or opposite even. You know, spotting myself on the roof, being a crew chief, and then you being a driver. So, you know, how do you kind of put that drive and helmet down and and pick yourself up by your bootstraps.
Yeah,
start that.
No, it's a good question, and obviously could answer that for the next, as you and I have talked about it, for the next 3-4 hours. I don't think there's enough time on this show to go through it, but in a nutshell, I think back kind of that turning point when you start seeing a little bit of a crossroads was, I'm driving for Bill McAnally, driving the Napa car on the West Coast, and you alluded to it, your crew chief and David Mayhew. And I remember you probably feeling and having conversations with me about, man, I might go down this path of crew chiefing and diving into the setups. And obviously you guys hauled ass everywhere you went with David Mayhew, and it turned a lot of heads. And here I am driving, the Napa at the time Toyota Camry and working with those guys, and felt like I had a foundation to get to the next step, because you and I had already done a bunch in other series, the UARE tour, both of us were testing a lot for different teams and had a bunch of conversations going on. Point being, it just worked out to where we won some races in 2015, and I got stopped by Scott Gregson, Noah Gregson's father, at the end of 15, and I was losing my ride to Todd Gilliland. It was one of those times that I realized the more, especially in the lower series, the more I feel like the more success that you have, especially if you're not bringing funding to the table.
It makes the car desirable to drive for somebody else.
I want to go rent that ride, right? And, hey, good on them. And Toyota was backing Todd at the time. David Gilliland, one of the smartest guys in the garage area, in my opinion, at setting cars up. Him and Tic Tac went out there, and it was the perfect deal for Bill McAnally, and I respect that decision now. But Scott Gregson asked me if I would come and help Noah and help him understand what it's like to represent a partner, what it's like to, I guess, be out here in the Charlotte environment and in this kind of bubble of racing. So I ended up going down that road. I still drove a little bit, any opportunities I would get, and won a couple races, went and won Loudon. Actually, Dad was spotting for me for a guy, John Viscani, up there for the Apple Barrel Race back in 2018. So still kind of dabbled in it. Just the one thing I'll say is it just naturally kind of worked itself out to where I wasn't going to drive anymore. And I wanted to focus on that driver management role. I felt like that was a good way to stay relevant and involved in the sport. Did some spotting for you for a little while and kind of got my feet wet doing that, but it just had a way of working itself out, and I still get to live that competition on the roof. And, I'm enjoying doing our marketing and our driver representation company over at Clear 28.
All right, now here you are. So that's great context for the people listening. Whether you're watching us on YouTube or listening to us on Sirius XM Channel 90 or listening to your podcast, it's about to be a big show. Because your opinion is valuable, because you have seen, now spotting for Ross, he was the guy go to the next gen car that was super aggressive.
Yeah.
And he was setting the bar of to how aggressive you had to be on restarts to keep positive restart retention and just put guys in bad spots. And everybody's like, whoa here, guy. What are you doing? Why are you hitting us? Why are you blocking us so bad? But that one car, Trackhouse hit on it right from the very jump with this next gen car, and Ross had a ton of success.
Yeah.
But it ruffled a lot of feathers at the same time.
Oh, for sure.
But now, over a three-year span, the racing and the aggressiveness and the defensiveness and all the on restarts aggressiveness in particular has changed. And what's it look like, and how's it changed from the roof?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, because you're right. I can't tell you how many times have people come up to me, especially on the roof, and just like flipping out over,
like, is your cool shirt working?
Oh God,
mine's broke.
For the record, hot. I will never, and you can etch this in stone if you'd like. I will never wear one of those freaking cool shirts up there. I applaud them for wanting to be comfortable. That is their deal.
I heard somebody on the stand.
Oh boy,
said that it was 129 degrees on the roof.
I think the floor mat that we were standing on was probably maybe even a little hotter than that, but it was warm, like, for sure. And if you needed to hydrate, it's anytime it's hot outside, you got to take care of yourself and make sure that you're cooled down, for sure.
I'm not taking anything away from the spotters.
Oh yeah, no,
I think they're an integral part of your on-track performance.
Yeah.
But you are only 40 feet above some guy that's probably 7 corn dogs in.
Yeah.
And about 12 bush lights. That guy's doing
valid.
just fine.
That's a valid point. I've never even thought about that.
Like, this distance, it doesn't call for a cool shirt.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah, he's a case of bush light in, and he's hanging on too.
He's going to drive his camper home that night.
Yeah.
He's doing just fine.
Look, and I don't want to get off topic, but I struggle for sure sometimes with all the equipment. You know, some guys are running SMT up there, which is great, because if you can benefit and get that information to your driver quicker, that's an advantage. Making sure you're cooled down and you're thinking clearly, obviously, that's any situation. That could be going out here and playing a pickup game of football. You're going to think clearer if you're cooled down and rested and ready to go. Point being, I just think that I struggle with it because I have sweat my ass off in those cars. And if I heard that and I'm down there driving the car at Nashville and I'm hearing about guys dragging cool shirts up there, I would struggle with it for sure. Yeah, so I totally get it.
All right, well, so we had to touch on it.
Yep.
I'm glad we did.
I feel better. It's off my chest because I text you and Flores. I was watching the show and listening to the show, and I'm like, they're just saying spotters. I'm like, we need to go down through the list, the roster, and take a look at who was wearing the cool shirts.
We don't want to name names, but you know who it is.
Yeah, I'm well aware. Great guys. Great
spotters.
Job. Yeah.
Maybe they are changing the game too up there. Who knows? But you can't go back. If everybody's up there, you're going to be one last man standing.
Well, I said,
without a cool shirt.
And the last thing I'll say too is, I said something to our competition director, Tony Lunders, great leader, awesome guy. Over at Trackhouse, I said something to him. I was like, "Man, I'm not going to wear one of those. Just understand, you guys got to stop giving me a hard time because I'm not one of those guys." And he said, "Be careful because if you go up there and flop out and don't have one," I'm like, "I think I'm going to be okay."
I think you'll be all right.
Yeah, it'll be fine. But back to your point of the aggressive levels of restarts. Man, you gotta be on the gas. If you lift and you give anybody an inch, it could be 4 spots to the negative, and you're just bleeding positions at that point, and it changes the whole entire outcome of your race. I don't care if you and I are friends or not. I don't care if it's Ross Chastain, Corey LaJoie, Daniel Suarez, Kyle Busch. It doesn't matter. You have to be aggressive, and sometimes mistakes are going to be made. And I'm sure, knowing you, and I've raced against you for a long time, you'll go back and take a look at what was your part or wrongdoing in it. Yeah. And that might not be for this podcast. That might not be for social media, and that's fine. That's the athlete in you. So that's one thing. As far as it pertains to Ross, look, we're all human. We're going to make mistakes, but I applaud the guy because he's on the freaking gas all the time, and you never question what he's willing to do for the one team. And hey, if that's you doing that for you and your guys, then I applaud you because no one else is paying your bills, right? You and your race team, you're there to battle every single corner. And the majority of that war that's done on Sundays is when you see the green flag on a restart. You got to get it done. And if you don't get it done, people question, I don't know if he's aggressive enough. Yeah. And it will cause some frustration within the field, but guess what? That's part of what we do. That's my opinion.
There is a very limited amount of driver camaraderie because the level of aggressiveness on restarts has went up.
Yeah, for sure.
There is no chumming it up. There's no playing pickleball in the DO lot. There is some guys that, like, you're not buddies. Yeah. And it is only because restarts aggressiveness is the entire outcome of your day. So let's pin this.
Yep.
Because I like where that was going. Let's pin that. As we take a lap to recap the latest NASCAR action, here's a reminder that the sun's rays can put you in the hot seat. About 5.4 million cases of non-melanoma skin cancers, like basal cell carcinoma or cutaneous squamous cell carcinoma, are diagnosed in the U.S. each year. And approximately 90% of cases are associated with the UV radiation from the sun. If left undetected, these cancers can spread or advance locally and become more challenging to treat. Our sponsor, Regeneron is helping people get real about skin cancer by raising awareness of the potential impact of advanced non-melanoma skin cancers. Visit letsgetrealaboutSkinCancer.com to learn more and take a pledge to see a dermatologist for an annual skin check.
I'm Ryan Flores. Join Kim Kuhn and myself each and every week right here at Around the Track. Whether you are going to the racetrack or watching from home, we get you ready for all things national and regional level.
And we'll tell you who and what to watch for each week. Plus, we get you ready for the weekend at the racetrack, and Erica will help you place your bets to win some easy money.
Be sure to check out Around the Track every Wednesday on NASCAR's YouTube channel.
Let's get into the week leading up to Pocono. Big news out of Spire Motorsports Camp. They got a big fish onto our boat in Rodney Childers. 2014 Cup Series champion, 40 career wins, crew chief and 4 different guys, but mostly the most notarized is Kevin Harvick, was at MWR, got Brian Vickers in victory lane, got David Rudem in victory lane, like innovator, all-time guy.
An awesome guy. Really
Awesome
good guy.
Short track driver himself, so he has like the experience from the seat, knows the lingo, very particular about his cars, and he's got Josh Berry running wells, so that is a huge addition to our team, and that just goes to show the investment that Spire and Jeff Dickerson and the risk those guys are willing to take to try to get good guys into our camp, and that's something I'm excited about. Still a lot of unfinished business this year. We're trying to get certainly our 7 team and our season turnaround. Hasn't gone great, but I think we show some glimpses of speed as we did this weekend at Pocono. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So we had a decent practice, a little bit loose in qualifying. They moved the alternate start. They put an alternate start finish line in, which is the right move at Pocono. And you want to make in qualifying, you're visualizing your lap and you want to try to get as much speed through the short chute into turn 3, which would be turn 1 of your qualifying lap. And I just carried a little bit too much minimum speed over the bumps, and it had a little tank slap Moatman, kind of chased it, got into the fence enough to where I debated on cutting the lap. Like, I killed my straightaway. Maybe let me just shut it down because we're going to have to start in the back anyways and check this thing, make sure it's straight. But I laid a lap down at 80%, 75%. And it was 30th. Just frustrated again that I bent the car up in practice. Qualifying second week in a row, had to start tail again. Guys worked hard on it, changed a couple suspension parts, starting the tail, and then we just started chipping away at it. Car was good. Get to, 27th, 28th, past several guys and are competitive. Now it's like, all right, now we are in the mix of now Sparks can kind of do some strategy and let's figure it out. So I haven't watched the race backs yet, so I can't really picture in my mind what the strategies were working and going. All I know is that we were in a decent spot a couple different times. We restarted 10th. We got to 18th, 17th, 18th. That's kind of where our speed was for our car, without getting a little more track position. So right here, guys on stickers are behind us. So you got good guys like the 12, the 9, the 5. All these guys had just pitted, and they're several rows behind us, trying to maintain a little bit of track position here. Tough spot, in-car camera watching on YouTube. Hard to decide who to push. Just
hard to see.
Dude, you just can't. Like, where are you going to go? So now you're in a bad spot, plowing tight behind Joey now, because he choked the air off. And, trying to roll the outside of the 51 here. And then that's kind of where we settled out, maybe 11th, 12th. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, let's settle in here. We started losing a little bit of positions to the guys coming on new tires, and I think we stabilized somewhere around, call it 15th. Okay, feeling good. Now let's see what the strategy plays out like, and we'll be okay here. But now I see closed captions. You guys did not have a very good day.
Yeah.
Got a little damage. What happened there? Didn't see it. This is the first time I'm seeing it.
Yeah. Man,
How was your day going prior to this?
It was fair. Obviously, as you know, and as we've been talking about, it's just a dogfight all the way through the field. I mean, there's no slow cars out there anymore from first to 37th.
Yeah.
Ross is battling hard. I know Phil Surgeon, our crew chief, tried some strategy. I think we ended up taking 2 tires at this point before we ended up getting into some trouble. Just in a bind, but we're back there with the 5 and some of these other guys. The biggest challenge, quite honestly, was Zane had a pretty decent restart from what I remember, and I think all of us felt like we could get that position pretty quickly, and us and the 5 got stalled out behind him, couldn't go anywhere.
Yep.
You start, you're burning off the front, you're burning off the rears, it's hot out,
and then it all just stabilizes. Everybody runs the same speed.
You're running the same speed.
So as we key up this video, I see the 1 is on the right side, and he's running the top in 3. And, big moment. Shattered the rears and just gets up into the outside fence. Broke a toe link, probably been a lot of rear suspension. That's the area in which Kurt Busch in qualifying spun out.
Yeah, easy to do.
Dude, I'm telling you, you're asking maximum lateral capability out of the car, and your right side, especially running the top there. We got an in-car camera here. You'll hear it.
It's super flat right in here. I remember running some cars up here, but he's throttled up, committed, and just one little right rear chatter, and that's it. And I made a comment in my post-race. One, that's what you love and hate about media in the sport is you get out of the car, you haven't seen any sort of interview or any sort of replay or anything, and they want to stick a microphone in your face and ask about it, which is part of the gig that I signed up for, and that's part of the gig that I love. But I said something that I think was probably a little bit out of context of just like I bust my ass and work so hard to have a day like – you hit your marks and be perfect. I'm saying this to tie all this up. You have to be perfect to run 18th, to run 19th, let alone it's hard
win.
To run 25th.
Dude.
Yeah.
Like I work very hard and study so many hours of guys, the 11, the 9, the 5. Every week I'm like trying to communicate better with my team to run 19th. Yeah. And that's we sped once on pit road as well. There's a super hot spot there was I don't know if there was some math wrong on NASCAR's end because everybody was speeding on that.
I think it was segment 7. Yeah, by the start finish line.
But that regardless, other people made it through there just fine. We got snagged. Our race could have went different had that not happened, unfortunately. But I say all that like you have to be perfect, and even if you're perfect, that's sometimes only good enough for 19th. Sometimes that's only good enough for 7th.
Yep. And
that's how hard the sport is right now, and that's what I love about it, and it's also what I hate about it.
Yeah.
So we see one, not even a lapse of concentration. He was concentrated on the tire, trying to get to 99.9% of what the tire grip can give you.
Yeah.
And a little bit too much wheel angle, a little bit too much yaw, that thing chatters and it's game over and your day's done.
Yeah, and in that moment too, when you have flip strategies and even every single lap, and you know this much better than I do from your experience and driving these things every single weekend, is you have to maximize when you're on the opposite strategy and get around the 71 and get around some of those other cars in front of you specifically. Yeah, because if you don't, then your strategy is not going to pay off no matter what.
Right.
So it just puts you further behind, and you got to be aggressive. And one thing I did notice, speaking about the heat, and I could definitely feel it because I didn't have a cool shirt on, was that's probably the hottest I remember being in Pocono, just walking around.
It's humid too. It was downpoured in the morning.
It was super humid. And I think even Saturday, I know you had issue in qualifying. We saw Noah get in the fence earlier on in the race.
Well, the 5, the 45, several guys through the tunnel.
Yeah, it's challenging. And that place is just, it's hard enough on your own. So whenever you're taking air off the front throughout the race and the tires are wearing out, and you're burning off the rears, it's challenging, and it's easy. Look, the job is to not do those things, but at the end of the day, it's going to happen
when you're pushing 99%,
100%.
Sometimes you're going to cross the limit. All right, we got the 38 here. Haven't seen what happened to him. Let's key it up. Is that a right front tire down or a rotor? Probably a rotor going down here.
Good thing it happened where it did. I mean,
Yeah, he had a
we've
good warning.
Seen guys have that happen much later.
And they usually hang a left and then absolutely teetotal the fence head on.
Yeah.
So at least were they able to finish the race, or they
No, I think he was out.
Yeah, if you break a rotor, that's it for you. So yeah, unfortunate ending there for the 38. So we got some comers and goers. Ryan Blaney seemed to, well, he looking back on the averages, he had the best car on the average. Kept cycling his way to the front. And is this it right here? Is this the restart that everybody wants to talk about?
This is the moment.
So this is a lot of the time. This is the first time I'm seeing a lot of these. So let's go ahead and roll the tape.
He has helped you.
All right, so we're only 7 wide getting into 1. So the 16 gives me a big push. Big block out of the 8. And then I get to the left rear of the 8 and spin him out. So
were you expecting him to block you? Or were you thinking,
it was
I got it?
I knew I had it. The 16 gave me a huge run. So he hung a left and hit my headlight and blocked me.
Mm-hmm.
But still, there wasn't any frustration there. It's like, okay, that's part of it. Let me try to keep favoring down to the left.
Yeah.
So once he blocks me here, I'm like, all right, I got to get back up. So I'm looking in my mirror. I'm checking if I'm clear with the right recorder. What I was confused about, and still confused about, pause this. So this is the in-car camera, the 8. Somebody mentioned that he was on the chip. So I think this clip right here changes my entire perception of it, because you watch it and I'm like, maybe I did hook him on accident. Maybe I misjudged his left recorder trying to fall in line because he threw what was a late block. I was gonna cut him some slack and just blend and live to fight another day, right? The top lane's gonna probably roll at this point in time because your momentum's killed. But I'm not. I think sometimes at the deficit, and my team gets on me a lot about this, is like I try to be, in most instances, like the guy that races like with respect, cut guys' brakes, don't lean on guys. And now, as unpin the talk from earlier,
you've let the dog off the front porch.
Yeah, well, because everybody takes advantage of, all right, well, the 7's behind me. If I block him, he's gonna lift.
Yep, and you can't.
And after 2 months of constantly hearing what you did this in this restarter, and you let this guy in, or why'd you not use up this real estate? It's like, okay, like I guess I'm gonna have to change my driving style and be more aggressive, because you see it work out for. Used to be Ross Chastain in the beginning of the next gen car. Right now, Carson's doing a good job on maintaining his position on a restart, and he's, he drives uber aggressive, all the time, and that's a bit of adjustment for me because I've been raised by Randy LaJoy saying you race people with respect, you don't hit anybody, you definitely don't turn them around, and if you do, you got to you go help fix their shit if you wreck them, right? That's what my dad would say. Yeah. So,
well, and we've all hit enough walls that that's not the goal, right?
So as I try to replay it back, and I hadn't seen, I wish I'd have done an interview with some replays before I said anything, because I didn't know. Yeah. I probably am more, I don't know if remorseful is the right word, but I do feel bad for even for Kyle.
Yeah, you don't want to wreck anybody.
End his day. Yeah. Randall Burnett, we're buddies. I don't want to wreck anybody's day. So here, watching the in-car of the 8 is what makes it make more sense in my mind of how it all went down. So you listen to it here. Let's key it up. Okay, you hear how much he was on the chip there?
Yeah, banging the chip.
So when you're that deep in traffic, you're in between grabbing 4th and 5th gear. And the Chevys anymore, I don't know if Toyotas and Fords do it, but they have it just a flat shift. So the engine gets up to a certain RPM, you just put some load on the shifter, and it cuts timing and it falls into gear. Right. You don't get high enough in the RPMs early enough to pull 5th. You have to, I say manually, you have to blip and pull 5th on restart.
Okay, got it.
So he was in between 4th and 5th here, and you heard it on the chip. So play my in-car. Big shot out of 16. Okay, I'm going to take the run here. 3 miles an hour. Big block. So And it's easy to sit here on Monday morning and break it down. Look at it on TV, and Jeff Burton says, looks like he just wrecked him on. Who knows? But
That's awesome.
I can tell you that it wasn't intentional. I'm sure Jeff had a particular opinion on it because his son was tore up in the incident as well. But the amount of time that 8 was in the chip there was like 50 yards.
Yeah, that's pretty far. Yeah.
So when he throws the initial block, I still had some forward momentum in relation to him, but then it evened out. And then I was planning on trying to kind of blend back behind him, but at the same time I was committed to kind of fill and get behind him is when he was in the chip.
When you see the corner and you're like, I might not make it. I got to get back up somehow. Right. I would assume.
So the amount that he was in the chip, I didn't anticipate his car losing that momentum relative to mine. I spun him out, took out several good cars behind me, which I do feel bad about on Monday.
Yeah.
But, I think they played Sparks' radio, who has been adamant to me about, hey, you got to be more aggressive. Stop giving these guys breaks. Like the era of gentleman driving and you cut a break and then you're going to get a break later.
Yeah.
Those deals are off.
Yeah.
So he was particularly fired up after this.
He hooked himself.
Yeah, I ain't worried about him. It's all about us. Focus forward here. Yeah, you let him have it the first time. Second time, he got what he deserved. All good.
Naturally fired up.
Yeah.
He is.
He's Team 7.
Team 7.
Yeah, he's Team 7.
I mean, left Richard Childress a while ago. Doesn't really care to go back.
Right. Right.
So
sure.
He's fired up.
How long have y'all worked together?
5 years now.
5 years?
I think that that audio was played on TV as if it were me saying that. And then I think Kim maybe corrected it, is what I heard from somebody. I thought
it was Stephen Parsons at first. I'm like, man, he's pretty vocal for being up there on the roof for a few weeks.
So I hear this, like I see it from my windshield. I see it all go down. Right. The only thing that I have to see is my memory, which is probably vague because it's like a bang bang decision.
Yeah.
You're trying to get leverage. You're trying to maintain your position, and you get blocked, and then next thing you know, several guys wreck, and it's not you. Then you hear Sparks, and it's like, okay, I'm good. I'm not in the wrong, is what I'm thinking at the moment.
You're
I
like,
get
I'm
out,
moving on.
And Jesse Punch sticks mice at my face. Bob Pockers was there, which I guess appreciate, and maybe Kyle Busch hadn't seen any replays, but this is the first time I'm hearing it.
What happened?
No, I just want to thank all of our partners and everybody that's been behind our program at RCR, ECR Engines, obviously Zone Nicotine Pouches, and Cheddar's, Lucas Oil, everybody for their support and continuing to back us and be behind us, and of course the fans and Rowdy Nation as well too.
It seemed like there was an issue between you and LaJoy. Is there a conversation that needs to be had?
Nah.
All right, frustrated Kyle Busch down here as he is out of the race early.
So that makes me a little nervous, and I might have to pull my belts a little bit tight. That's what that interview.
Where do we go next? Indy?
Indy.
Okay.
Yeah, my belts will be. Let me make sure my headrest foam is. The gaps are a little bit tightened up because.
Yeah. Well, you got a good seat, so that's good.
I got a good seat, but he's thinking something vastly different than what he's saying, right?
Yeah.
With how the 8 team has had this year, I have just now yesterday helped with how bad their year is going, unfortunately, and I texted him. Maybe I should call him. Maybe I should send him flowers. I don't know.
Yeah. No text back?
No.
Yeah.
No text back.
That's all right.
But
at least you'll see him in 5 days?
What's probably going to happen, like it always does, whenever you run into somebody, you're in the driver intro truck next to him. We're going to qualify 14th and 15th and be next to each other and be scrapping. I am going to have my eyes peeled out in case somebody's holding Richard Childress's watch.
Oh, yeah.
If somebody's holding his watch, I better be checking over my shoulder.
Richard's awesome. He's awesome. That's good stuff.
But
you'll be okay. Maybe is the family going up with you to Indy?
No.
I was going to say if they were, you just bring them to driver intros. You can't be scrapping if you got the kids there.
No, I'll be solo.
Oh, okay.
I do feel like a conversation's warranted there.
Yeah.
I do feel worse about it on Monday than I did on Sunday night because now I see everything. It makes more sense to me is, people that are, on Reddit are probably having their own opinions on what happened, but that's just how aggressive you have to be on restarts, and you have to take momentum when you get it. And I'll take some blame there. I think that if Kyle pulls fifth gear and the momentum of his car doesn't change as much, then I don't turn him around. I think we just roll around the corner and keep him moving.
Well, and the only other thing I could think on that is, to your point, like he's had a rough season, right? And that's got to be a frustrating Sunday. It's a racing deal, but I will ask the question of the week here on Stacking Pennies, if that's okay.
Gladly.
Do you think that NASCAR is going to penalize you or suspend you or fine you or anything like that because of this incident?
I hope not.
Okay.
I mean, I think they have enough tools now that there's more information than ever that you can see and understand what the intent is.
SMT.
Right? You look at SMT, you can listen to in-car cameras, you can watch in-car cameras and see if there's any erratic moves made that are I don't know what's the word.
Blatantly obvious.
Blatantly egregious to wreck somebody, right? And if we had stewards and if this is a F1 race, that would probably be a penalty, who knows, 10-second penalty for avoidable contact.
Right.
We don't have that, nor have we ever, nor I hope we'd never have that, because that's what makes NASCAR awesome, is just the aggression, the ability to kind of get into guys and move guys around. But yes, if it were on the highway, I'm getting a ticket for that. Right? I run in the back of him. Didn't anticipate him stretching fourth, getting on the chip for 50 yards, through a block, trying to merge. I would hate if NASCAR sends me a fine because diapers and kids are expensive these days. But
and I will say on that, like, look, I've never run a cup race there. I'm not going to be one of those spotters that acts like I'm driving the car or anything like that. I will say, from racing at Pocono years ago, that is the last corner, restart or not, that you want to wreck, right? Like the tunnel, any of the turns there, the place, I mean, you're hauling ass.
Yeah.
So it's like anyone out there, in my opinion, that is thinking, oh, he intentionally wrecked them. Like,
I've never intentionally wrecked anybody, unless we're like at GoPro or something, and then you're just slipping around in the rain.
So what do you think in that incident? Do you get run over if you lift because of the push that you had, or?
No, I think you just get passed by 7 guys behind you.
Yeah, kind of like what we were talking about before.
Nobody
with the
lifts.
restarts. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, I guess you do if you don't smash straight in the back of somebody, but
right. And then you're getting told that you're not aggressive enough.
Right.
And
yeah.
One hand feeds the other.
For sure. So, yeah, I hate that's how it ended. Yeah. I hate that I turned somebody around, anybody around. I don't like to race that way. I don't like to be the guy that spins somebody. I don't like that.
Racing deal.
It was a completely racing deal, and I think you look at some of the instances that we've seen driving on-track penalties, 2 of which have happened under caution, with Bubba last week, smashed into the 48, which I somewhat agree with the no points monetary fine. Carson's happened under caution, 25 points, 50 grand. Chase Elliott got sat for a week, right rear hooking somebody head onto the fence at speed. I think it's a different animal because that was egregious and it was intentional.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm sure that they are weighing all the factors and looking at it. But I don't anticipate a penalty. But
I would agree with that. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think there's nothing about that would say.
It's also, if I find myself, being the instigator in other issues and I'm the guy smashing people in the fence, like, okay, if I'm a repeat offender here, and like, but I feel like I've been doing this long enough. I don't crash people on purpose.
Yep, agreed.
Never have, and I never will. So what do we got now? I heard about some yoo-hoo coming out of the pipes of the 54. Let's see what happens. Oh, big ignition out of the 54.
Not good.
Oh, some water, oily substance. That usually means there's some spare parts floating around in the inside of that Toyota Camry. It's up.
And he was fast at the start, right? I mean, he on the pole, led a bunch of laps.
And then you're dumping out Yoo-hoo. That's a big blow up, ladies and gentlemen.
That sound is the worst. Oh, yeah. It's like the world's coming to an end when those things blow up.
So we had chose the top. This was like, there was like 3 or 4 restarts. Boom, boom, boom. We were between 10th and 13th. We chose the outside and got stuck 4 wide top and went back to like 16th. And we come and put 4 on it, hoping that we could get back to at least where we were. And that was kind of the bed that we made. Nobody else came, so we started tail on the lead lap, and we were going to try to work our way back for the last 20 laps or however many there were.
Because there was, 20-something cars on the lead lap at this point?
27 or 8.
Yeah. So you got a shot. I mean, if you can get a few.
To get back to top 20 is what,
yeah.
I think we pitted from 17th, and that's what we were going to hope to get back to. I don't know what we're looking at. Just passing guys on new tires is always fun but everybody in front of us is on still 1 lap tires because we've only done 3 passes through turn 1 at like 80%.
Yeah, and then a bunch of cautions.
Yeah. But super turbulent air in the back here, just carving some guys up. 3 wide bottom. And got back to 18th and got past late race around the 2. Finished 19th. So I feel like our car was better than that. Just never quite panned out for us, unfortunately. And that's all she wrote. On to Indy. I'm excited about that this week in Gamebridge's backyard. What do we got? Anything else? Oh, yeah, and Ryan Blaney and Ryan Flores won the race. Shout out to those guys. It did seem like it was a very anticlimactic ending.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Blaney, he was on a roll, which obviously I was only on the roof for, I don't know, 50, 60 laps. Man, he could roll the bottom better than anybody. Obviously, he won the race in 3. I mean, even in 1 in traffic, but to see their stuff, and it's very similar when we go to Gateway. I would be surprised if it wasn't the same this weekend, which everyone should be on the bottom at Indy, obviously. If you're not, you got big problems. But, their stuff's really impressive when they hit it right, being able to roll the bottom like that. And that's probably what led to a little bit of a, not the most exciting ending. But, look, if there's a buzzer beater in every single basketball game, then they're not anymore. Very exciting. So, in Pocono's just notoriously, you're out there cutting laps. I think it's a fun place to cut laps on, but tough to race in any sort of vehicle, even if you're driving a bunch of pace cars around. So, on to Indy, like you said, fun town, be a good race. It'd be cool to be back on the oval again too. It's been
very excited about that.
Yeah. Have you run the oval there?
Yeah, a couple times.
Gotcha.
Yep.
I should have known that.
A couple times. I think twice. Yeah.
Cup car? Cup car.
I did the BK first year.
What was that like, your first time?
It's so...
Were you nervous?
Hell yeah, you're nervous. But just the feeling of going down the front straightaway at Indy, it feels super narrow because the stands are very vertical on the right, and there's also obviously stands on your left too. So it's a very narrow-looking straightaway, and it's like, oh man, this is cool.
Yeah.
My first time out there, I did the simulator once, and I'm like, okay, I think there's only 4 corners. How hard can it be? You just figure it out. I'm out there, and I'm, doing it. I get in. I feel like I laid a pretty good lap down. I come in, look at the pylon. Oh man. I'm 30th, and I was like, how much speed do I need to find? And Denny Hamlin was like 3.5 seconds faster than I am. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, that's when you sell yourself on. Well, it's a big racetrack, so it's a little bit here and there. And
yeah, it's a little bit here and there. There's a second through this corner, almost a second in every corner. Yeah, I can figure that out.
It's like going road course racing for the first time. It's like, well, it's like a 10th a corner, and it's
and
there's like 12 turns.
And you're driving your ass off, hitting the curves, feeling like you're hauling ass. You only need 2.5 seconds here, buddy. Keep up the good work.
They're in Darlington. I can't, as we were talking about my short stint in amateur racing, and slight career at semi-professional race car driver. Those are the two tracks for whatever reason. Indy, and I never got to run Darlington, but those two racetracks, man, I can't imagine rolling off pit road like here we go, like getting after it.
Man, those freaking early morning practices back there where the track was green, and the track temp was 75. You knew that you had to put them on the dash, buddy.
Yeah, get after it.
Oh my God, the track would have so much grip, and you were just legging it like, oh God, please stick.
Yeah, hang on
to it. You missed those Saturday morning. Early morning practices.
Yeah,
that's what we missed.
It'll be in the heat this weekend. I think practice Friday late afternoon, and qualifying even right in the middle of the day. So going to be
greasy,
sliding around. I like
greasy.
it. That's it.
I did hear though that our co-host and friend Ryan Flores fired in over some pit road boats and woes and his dog of the week from Victory Lane. What a freaking flex. Buckle up. We're going to get to pit road boats and woes right after this.
Pocono winner Ryan Blaney was also part of the NASCAR Insiders Roundtable presented by Goodyear. Blaney, his dad Dave, as well as Harrison and Jeff Burton joined host Kyle Petty to talk about NASCAR's family history and what it's like for legacy drivers at NASCAR's highest level. Watch the NASCAR Insiders Roundtable presented by Goodyear on NASCAR's YouTube channel.
All right, guys, we're back with some pit road boats and woes. Of course, Ryan Flores is going to flex a little bit. He sends us a video with the bald eagle, Pocono trophy over his left shoulder, and for some reason they must have done some Photoshop because his jawline looks chiseled in this video.
Looks like Johnny Bravo.
Jesus, good-looking fella. He doesn't look like that when he comes in here in studio. He looks like an absolute stud in Victory Lane. What's he got to say?
Corey, Brandon, sorry I couldn't be in the nonsense garage with you guys today. Looks like you got a lot to talk about, Corey, so I'll let you handle that. But we're still here partying in Pocono. Wanted to let you in on the dog of the week. Like I said, I don't name the 12 guys that much, but Chris Conklin earns it today. He gassed the hell out of this thing, and we're here in Victory Lane because of him. Our second win together at Pocono. So really excited to be here. Bummed I can't be there, but I'll see you guys later this week.
Yeah, he looks real bummed.
That's a beautiful background, too. the bald,
picture perfect.
Yeah, bald eagle trophy. Awesome.
Kudos to those guys. Chris Conklin, gas dog of the week. He doesn't throw out very many singular dogs, but that is so fun fact, Ryan and Chris Conklin won. He was referring to Ryan Blaney's first time there with the 99th Wood Brothers win.
Yeah.
So he was pitting on that car for the Wood Brothers. Now they have got a dub at Pocono in the 12 car. So again, congrats to those guys. I would say that a woe, particularly for the 7, but also the 9, the 5, the 99. A lot of guys got nabbed by what we consider a hot section on pit road. So I'm sure the Letarte and the guys in the booth probably broke it down. Maybe they did, maybe they did not. But without getting too far in the weeds, there are lines cut in the pavement that essentially just check your transponder, and it's time over distance that has how they calculate your mile per hour. If there is a 8 to 12 to 14 inch discrepancy in the math of the distance in actuality versus the math they input into the software, it can potentially get your speed off. And if the distance is, I don't know. I don't want to get into math because I'm not great at math. I just drive in circles. But sometimes it will show an abnormal speed in a section, and we saw that in Section 7 when the entire field, except for 3 cars, sped in this particular section on their initial drive-through. So then as a team, we figure out, okay, we sped by, I don't know, It was 60.22. We generally shoot for 59.1 to 2. So we give ourselves an 0.8 of a mile an hour buffer to not speed. You anticipate maybe not looking at your lights, trying to find your pit box, maybe bumping a light than you shouldn't have. So we give ourselves a little bit of buffer, as is mostly everybody else. We were a quarter of a mile an hour over. So now it's an entire mile an hour off of what we had planned for. So we have to go back. They look at the RPMs and what they put on the dash for my lights. And so we knocked that down, and we were good most of the day. And I must have ran a couple RPM too much because we sped throughout the course of the day once as well. I mean, it's the same for everybody. You know, you have to play to the play-in field that you're presented, and that's what we presented, and it bit the 17 this week.
Well, and when you rolled through on the practice pit road speed, you know, coming to, I don't know, 1 to go before the start of the race, how many lights did you end up knocking out, or like how many less lights did you end up running for the actual race while you're rolling pit road?
So I bet if there's 36 cars, 36 of them have a different light combination.
Yep.
Just how you want to go about it with, you can go, there's, I believe,
different colors,
9 lights or 10 lights.
Yeah.
You can go purples, blues, anything. I mean, you can really make it. So we do generally, if there's 10 lights, we'll go 6 green, 2 red, and a purple. And most of the time, we hold 6 green, hold 1 red, and then flash the second red.
Mm-hmm.
And when you bump that, you should be between, I don't know, 0.4 and 0.6 to the good.
Yep.
And if you see a purple, like if you happen to pull out your pits, grab second gear, realize you're too high, if you show a purple, you know you got to give it back. Yeah. That's what we do. When we know we're hot on our roll through, we give back, okay, if now we're going to go, instead of all green, 1 red, we'll go all green. Or we go 5 green. So we ended up running 5 green. Maybe I got to 6 green through the segment, which is a little bit too much, obviously, and that's what it was.
Well, and it's
a lot of guys,
it's pretty
though,
short, too.
It's a very short segment, so you can't give it back if you bump a light. A lot of guys, though, have 2 separate dash pages. If you have 9 pages in your dash, some guys have fat. You guys probably do. In the one car, you have your what you think is your ideal pit speed. Mm-hmm. You do your roll through. Okay, we're a little bit slow. Let's change pages. This is bumped up 0.25 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that there are teams that did that or adjusted that. But yeah, interesting this week. Talking about timing loops isn't something that really makes, I don't think the fans get super into it. But that was a woe this weekend for a lot of guys, myself included. So figured we should talk on it.
I like it.
That's all we got for Pit Road Boats and Woes. Miss our buddy Ryan Flores, but he's driving back from Jersey with his family. He'll be back in here next week. But you've done a hell of a job filling in so far. So
it's a big seat to fill, that's for sure.
It is.
I feel like I don't know what's a good comparison, but I feel like it's probably a good comparison like when Chase Elliott hopped in the 24 after Jeff retired.
It's comparable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's comparable.
Yeah.
About as many eyeballs around that, a couple million each and every week. Well, to keep this train rolling, why don't you rifle off some #Penny for your thoughts questions?
I'm pretty pumped up about this segment because I have seen this. It is interesting, some of the names on social media and some of their handles, so I'll let that be that. And we'll go with the first one. With Ryan finishing...
Blaney.
With Ryan Blaney.
Yeah, just give it, like, you know, when you read
little
something,
context,
this is in the parentheses.
So we're off to a good start, similar to filling in on the 24. With Ryan finishing mid-20s the first 2 stages and winning the race, is it strategy or speed?
Both.
Okay.
I mean, this would be a question for Flores, obviously, because he was on it. But the reason why he finished mid-20s is because he flipped the stages, I assume. He had the fastest car per the average. They flipped it. That way they knew everybody was going to come down to pit into the stage. They would flip all those guys, and then they would restart the stage with track position and run the entire run with track position. Flip it again. You know you're going to cycle back to the front after the stages. So you forego stage points. You go for this the overall race win, which is what they did, and they can afford that because they don't need stage wins necessarily. They got them 5 playoff points for the big check.
And he was rolling the bottom. That speed, I mean, he looked strong.
Takes
looked
both.
Really good.
It takes both. You don't.
Yeah.
Very rarely do you luck your way into a Cup Series win.
Way too hard. Absolutely.
Next question.
The second one. Can you explain the hot zones on pit road this week? Thanks.
Well, good thing we just did.
Yeah, we're ahead of it.
Thank you for listening.
We are rolling. I like it.
All right, I'm going to ask you this one.
Okay.
From Lun_photography. Enjoying listen to your scanner this year. Help me understand some of the lingo your spotter is using. So, the start of the season as a spotter, we had a spotter change a couple weeks in. TJ Bell, still a good buddy of mine, was spotter. We changed to Stephen Parsons, who drives part-time in the Truck Series schedule, who I think is like a Brandon McReynolds Jr.
Oh, God.
Because you spot for Stephen in the truck. Not in terms of off-track antics, but on radio communication.
I'm sitting here like, this is like a hot seat.
It is a hot seat.
It's like a roast.
They don't call you Uncle Muff for nothing.
Oh, Lord. Yeah.
So
that's a different episode. Yeah.
Stefan is your nephew in many ways. So
it's like pushing a rope.
It's impossible.
Yeah. I love Stefan.
But he spots very much like you, like a very calm, collected cadence. Like almost so Earl Bamber.
Barbin.
Earl Barbin.
Yeah.
Barbin. Spotted for Jimmy for years. Spotted for you in the Xfinity Series.
Yeah.
Several races, right?
Yeah, well, he worked with Noah when I started managing him, and so that's who I got to listen to so much before I came and spotted for you on the Cup car over at BK.
Very easy going.
Yep.
Yeah, big guy. Keep up the good work.
All right.
Y'all looking good out there, big guy. Clear by 10 driving away. Need anything, I'll let you know, big guy. I heard a good Earl story this weekend because Doug Dukart, team president, he always gives us some good old Hendrick stories.
Yeah.
They were at call it Kansas, and they were so the 48 was out there, or no, the Indy, sorry. And Doug says that you're waiting on a cloud any given time. Back in the day when you had to pick when you were going to make a Q run and all that.
Yeah.
And Doug said Chad's out there looking at the solstice of the sun, trying to figure out what the trajectory of the Earth is.
Farmer's Almanac.
He's like, it's like trying to figure out when the cloud's going to cover.
Yeah.
Looking at his watch, got the the compass out, and Chad's like, Earl, what's it look like up there? Earl says, cloudy. Earl, trying to make this thing go fast.
Yeah, he wants specifics, not just cloudy. Yeah.
So I say all that, right? You have a very easy demeanor on the radio.
Yeah.
Don't get up, don't get down, because I like that because you are really the only voice the driver's hearing. So if you get up, driver's getting up and antsy. If you get down, the driver's getting down. So you have to keep the driver in it, be somewhat of a cheerleader when you need it. So they asked about lingo. I wonder what specific lingo they're talking about. Is there any particular lingo that you could think of that you use that people be listening like, what the hell are they talking about?
We keep it pretty simple and direct. I mean, I think for us, there's the obvious things that stand out when you're talking about car links back and all that. But now with the camera, I think a lot of it is helping manage the day and get to the end, manage motions like you talked about, kind of not being super monotone, but just not adding to the chaos that is already a part of driving a big-ass race car really fast around big racetracks, right? That's hard enough as it is, so it's not our job to aid to the soap opera. But one thing that does stand out would be, a lot of times we talk about, especially at the plate tracks, but even on Sunday in Pocono on the restarts, as you launch and you get going, we talk a lot about the gaps out the front, right? Like room
and
in
it's
front.
not the obvious gap in front of your bumper. It's the gap in front of that guy.
In front of that guy. Yep. So if you can push, if you need to pedal a little bit to time out your run, or if he's on him in front, we say that a lot, like quarter front.
He'll be right on you, out back, right on you, keep the 71. Quarter front, now on in front. 71 still lined up, a little lower.
Yeah, on in front.
Yeah, and I'll just start going on. And he knows, okay, I'm going to jump to a different lane, or I need to cushion that push to the guy in front of him. So a little bit of that goes on, but I think the biggest thing is the one thing that stands out in my mind, and you've spotted for me, I've spotted for you, help the guy with the information that's needed. And other than that, quit with the commentary, right? Like, you got to keep it light on there, but nobody, if you want the race broadcast, you could just flip over to that on MRN or on Fox, NBC, and check that out. So it's our job to help you go faster, and if not, let you focus.
Yeah, that's right. So there you have it. I would say one thing that comes to my mind would be stay on the tire. That's something that Stefan and I talked about. I say Stefan Parsons is his name, but I call him Stefan.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because it's Steven with F.
Yeah.
Stay on the tire is just something for me of like, okay, let me like hit a reset button right quick. Am I getting it all? Can I open my entries up a little bit? Can I make a little more lateral G on entry? So, if you restart, you lose a couple spots, you start to, shallow your entry up a little bit, you start giving up your exits, like just stay on the tire. Yeah. Find the tire. Okay, let's go get an accurate read of what the tire is doing. How much more lateral G can I carry? How much exit launch can I get? Yeah. So that's probably some of the lingo that comes to my mind that somebody that is listening might not understand.
I'm Steve Letarte. Join myself and Todd Gordon each week on NASCAR Inside the Race, presented by Consumer Cellular.
We will break down exactly how the race was won, plus we'll dive into the data and go in depth on penalties, race strategies, point standings, and rules changes.
And we have all kinds of fun tools to show off to provide all the minute details. Catch NASCAR Inside the Race each Tuesday on NASCAR's YouTube channel.
Penny Stackers. One of my all-time favorite stops on the schedule is S&S Speedway, the slick go-kart track in Pocono.
Oh, yeah.
You ever been?
It's been a long time.
Oh, my God. Yeah. It's so fun.
It is fun.
They got these freaking
It's not the place in Orlando, but other than that, it's pretty good.
That was Lil 500.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. They have these home-built go-karts. They're the same company, the same guys that built the slingshots up in the Northeast. So they have this it's Pocono-shaped, it's triangle. It is baby butt smooth and polished concrete, and you're sliding around. The tires have 400 pounds of air in it, and you're just legitimately just sliding around. So we took all the 7 guys out on Friday night and had an absolute blast. So there was one kid there named Shane who was super pumped up to meet Carson and I. Knew everything about our trajectories, how we got there. His mom said he's the Rain Man of NASCAR stats. So
nice.
I assume he listens to the podcast. So Shane, you sir are the Penny Stacker of the Week. Shout out to you. And he was in there cutting some laps too. Needed a little practice. He was backwards more than he was forwards, but didn't matter. He was having a good time.
Got to lay it out there.
That's right. So that is my Penny Stacker of the week. Also, I got a group of Penny Stackers as well. They asked me if I wanted to do a Gold Star family breakfast on Sunday morning, and when we woke up on Sunday morning, there was a dark mass behind the racetrack, and you're like, oh boy, if this thing hits, it's going to be huge. Right on top of when I had to go, and they had like these little like lean-to looking things, like kind of a glorified carport, bigger than that. It's kind of like the size of the Nonsense Garage, call it 20 by 40, and they had.
Is that the track?
Yeah, outside of where like the suites are. And they had different sponsors. I think Chevy had one. And this Gold Star family breakfast had one. There was probably 100 people in there. And it absolutely downpoured when we were in there. So what was going to be a 15-minute just a Q&A and shaking hands and kissing babies and all that ended up being like an hour-long thing because I couldn't go anywhere because it was sheets of rain. Got to spend a lot of time with those guys and just thank them for their service and sacrifice on Sunday morning, which is always a cool perspective adjuster. Always another perspective adjuster is what was that, Saturday afternoon was that Trump rally incident, assassination attempt that unfortunately killed one of racing's own. His name was Corey Compator. So condolences out to Corey and his family. He was a bystander that was killed. That's
terrible,
dude. It is brutal. It's hard to even talk about.
Yeah.
But he was a retired fire chief and a safety worker at Lernerville Speedway for over 20 years. So he was a hero. He was shielding his wife and daughter, and took that bolt that was meant for Donald Trump. So that sucks, buddy.
Yeah.
That really sucks. So our
Guy's
thoughts and prayers for the
guy's
family.
a hero. It's awesome. I
He
mean,
is.
to lay his life down. I mean, gosh, it's speechless, man. Tough situation for sure.
Yeah, and there's still several in the hospital recovering. So our thoughts and prayers are with them.
Absolutely.
Crazy times out there. Y'all don't do crazy things. Don't do dumb things. So let's shift gears from that to Bubba. A little lighthearted. After his fine after Chicago, he made himself available for some media obligations with an interesting perspective. Let's hear what Bubba had to say.
The penalty was probably the best thing that happened to me. I've been miserable for years, walking around with a persona that I'm not proud of. I apologize. I need to apologize to a lot of people, especially that are close to me. Sid, I'll start with you. Zach, where you at? You're right here. I told you to
his two PR
walk away last week, so apologize for that. Just frustrated and trying way too hard and not focus on the right things, and people don't see who I actually am on Sundays, and that broke me, right? Because I always preach about being the same person on and off the racetrack, and it's a pressure cooker. Being at the cup level, right? In the last 4 years, I've been miserable. Just trying to walk around like everything's okay. And I mean, not from a mental standpoint. I know I'm big on mental health. My mentals have been in check, but just trying to carry this persona, like I said earlier, that, hey, don't bother me right now. I'm too busy. And then when one thing goes wrong, the whole thing crumbles. So I came into this weekend with a smile on my face and wanting to have fun.
Those are some deep words.
Yeah.
I think that I'd agree with all that, and I think people have a misinterpretation of who Bubba is because he wears his feelings on his sleeve, and the only feelings that you see from Bubba are from the pressure cooker of a Sunday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Because who you have to be, no different than the decisions and the instantaneous mistakes or lapses I made on Sunday doesn't reflect who I am Monday to Sunday afternoon, right? It's like when you are, and that's where I think you can put Joey into a category like this too. People don't like Joey because he is so much different when he puts a helmet on.
Yeah.
He is a different person when he takes the helmet off, but you have to be different. And not even so much in the car. It's like when you put a fire suit on or when you are the guy for your team and you're the guy making the big bucks, it's stressful. And there's responsibility about that. And you feel like you have to carry yourself a certain way that people expect you to carry yourself, whether it's with swag, whether it's with mental strength, whether it's with some sort of like arrogance or whatever. And that wears on you.
Yeah.
That wears on Bubba. Wears on me, and it's hard to get out of that, especially when you are. Eric Amarola talked about this several weeks ago when he was on studio. It's like, yeah, you can say that you're not measured or you're not defined by your results on a Sunday afternoon,
but you are.
But you are compensated by them.
Yep.
You are judged by your peers by them. You're judged by your employer by them.
Yep.
So, yeah, by all intents and purposes, if you believe what their definition of you, if your competition side's not going right, it can lead to not very fun.
Yeah.
And that's where, when you find yourself in a little bit of a rut, you find yourself in a little bit of a slump competitively, it can turn into a mental slump as well because you start questioning it and you start chasing it and you start doing things that are probably out of character. And we've seen Bubba do that. I'd be surprised, but if what he says is true, a $50,000 fine kind of snaps you out of that. Maybe it does.
Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, look, both of us grew up with Bubba racing against one another. I remember you picking him up, taking him to school.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of the things that you and Flores have talked about on here before, but as a buddy, I got to see him last year down at a wedding. I think it was over the off season. All the weeks kind of blend together, as you know. And man, he's a good race car driver, and he has a lot of great partners. He races for a really good race team. And you're right, you hate to see kind of that roller coaster that is sometimes inevitable, but ultimately it's on a positive note. It's cool to see him, apologize to some of the folks that I don't know those folks that he mentioned, but I'm assuming they're
his PR
on his PR. So hey, that's growth, man, and that's all you can ask for. And I've, not to get off topic, but I've seen it working with on the driver management side. It's like to have that perspective and not be behind the wheel anymore and still try to relate to when you and I have conversations about ups and downs of the business or your racing or just opinions on the industry. It's hard to still have that perspective of a driver because what you guys are doing on Sundays, it is incredibly challenging. And I see that from conversations we have with the drivers we represent, with Noah, with Cole, with Jack, with Sam Mayer. We just signed Brendan Butterbean Queen. Shout out
Butterbean.
Actually, I just announced that here on this episode.
Hell
so
yeah.
There's a little Clear 28 plug.
There you go.
But point being, it's tough. You guys do a lot on and off the racetrack because if you don't, you're out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's harder than I've ever seen it. So I think it's easy for fans. It's easy for myself to judge and to jump to, hey, this is the solution, or go do this, or go do that. And you just got to sort it out, and you got to surround yourself with good people. And it seems like Bubba has done that. But sounds like Kevin Harvick gave him some good advice. You know Kevin well. And man, keep trucking.
He has a very good way of an ass chew and feel like more of a nibble.
Yeah.
Like ass nibble.
That's awesome. But man, at the end of the day, look, Bubba's going to be in the sport for a long time. He made a mistake. He's owning his mistake. He's apologizing to some of his folks, and good for him. And he's going to win more races in the sport too.
I think so. I think the sport is better when everything's better when Bubba runs good. It really is.
That's right.
Brings everybody together.
Yeah.
And that's what we need right now, ladies and gentlemen. We need a little bit of coming together.
Good point.
So, speaking of coming together, I feel I'm glad you and I came together for the show.
Heck yeah, man! It was a blast.
Y'all follow Brandon McReynolds on whatever sort of social media escapades you got, or you can listen to the One Spotter or the Run Radio each and every week, and you can hear him up on the roof spotting his little heart out. And I appreciate you guys.
We don't make radio active very often, so it gets a little boring. So maybe just listen to Stephen and Corey. But
listen to whoever you want to.
That's right.
As long as you keep listening here on Stacking Pennies on Tuesdays or on Wednesdays on YouTube. Continue to like, download, share, rate, review, do all the things, and follow @_Stacking Pennies on Instagram for our Arctic Ice Cold giveaway each and every week. That's all I got. Great show. Hopefully we got you guys up to speed with perspectives and all the good things. Congrats again to Ryan Flores and Ryan Blaney and that whole 12 team on getting the dub at Pocono. Tune in this Thursday for Spare Change. Break it down to Mindy, going to the Brickyard this weekend. It's Crown Jewel. It is back as a Crown Jewel. It was not. When you go backwards across the yard of bricks, it is not a Crown Jewel anymore, but we are going the correct counterclockwise direction. And that's where we're going to Indy this week. So appreciate you guys. Keep stacking pennies in life on your daily basis. Do all the small details right, and it'll get you where you want to go. Goodbye. Have a great week.